Alright, everybody, welcome back. So, the first Crusader got moved down in BR, and yeah, it's actually kind of busted now. Now, the F8U has been in the game for quite some time, is now a battle rating at 10.0, and actually back in the day, it did actually drop at 10.0 as well. Now, after quite some time, it got moved to 10.3, and it's been sitting there for probably at least a year now, if not more, until Gaijin finally went ahead and dropped it. I think I know why they did. I'm going to be talking about that a little bit later. But in the meantime, we just got to talk about how this plane is currently sitting in the meta. And, yeah. So you get 4 AIM-9Ds at a battle rating of 10.0 with some pretty good flight performance as well. Now, compared to its younger brother, I guess you could say, the F8E that comes on later, it does lack the AIM-9Cs, which are one of the big advantages of it, in my opinion. And it does have weaker wings, which I'll be talking about here in a little bit as well. So, it does have some disadvantages in that regard, but it is technically a little bit more agile. It's got the slats in the front of the wings, which I believe the F80 lacks. They have the same thrust to weight ratio, so nothing's different there. And to be quite honest with you, when it comes to like actually playing them, both of them feel like they perform roughly the same in flight performance. It's just that this lacks the punch that the longer range AIM-9C allows you to get in those head-on shots. Now, as you can see, minus the friendly AI team kill, which I'm not 100% sure exactly how that happened, I'm actually somewhat keeping up, even in the poll with this Kafir. And sustained turn, this thing is going to outperform most of the stuff of the BR. It has excellent energy retention. Its acceleration isn't the best, but in a dogfight, it performs very well because of that massive energy retention. And if you have something like a Delta, like the Kafir right there, that forces you to overshoot, just go ahead and go straight up, come back down on them. That allows you to preserve your energy like I'm doing right here, and now I have almost 2 kilometers of altitude, and I'm also a little bit slower, but it allows me to slot him behind him more of an AIM-9D, and I don't know if he just doesn't see it in time or what, but he doesn't flare until the last second, and so it just beams him. The AIM-9D is an excellent missile. I'm sure y'all have heard me sing the praises of the AIM-9L on some of my other videos, and this has a lot of the same properties. By the way, it does get a rocket pod in the belly. You can see it sticking out right there. I like trying to kill people in head-ons with it. I haven't done it yet. That doesn't mean I'm not going to stop trying it. I will say it's probably a little... You're probably better off saving the weight because you're most likely not going to get a kill with him. But I think it would be incredibly funny if I do, so I'm going to keep trying to do it. Now, back to the AIM-9D. This missile is very similar to the later AIM-9G and H and L in that regard. It's still a Navy missile. As you can see, it does have a really, really tiny seeker head. I'll show it off again here in a little bit if you hadn't seen it before. Contrary to popular belief, that does not actually really help with flare resistance because it does still go uncaged after launch. And what it does mean is that you aren't able to lead the missile, unfortunately. But you still get that really nice pull, incredible range, especially after the drag changes. This is one of the few missiles that can still hit stuff at like 3 or 4 kilometers near sea level. Almost everything else you have to be like almost up in the stratosphere now to do it. And this thing will still reliably get pretty long range kills, which is a huge advantage. So having 4 of them at 10.0 now, it's crazy. It doesn't happen that often, but I have actually gotten some 9.0 games, and you can be fighting MiG-17s and Sabres with these missiles, which is... Uh, y'all have heard in other videos, I'm not a fan of more high G missiles moving down in BR, but it is very fun playing this plane because of it. Especially because since it's at 10.0 now instead of 10.3, you're not getting all those 11.3 games. And even in 11.0 games, you're still going to be seeing a lot of flareless planes. This SPSK in front of me, no flares. Those Su-17M2s below me, also no flares. And a lot of these planes also, even though they have flares, they don't have many of them. So they're very hesitant to use them. And you can see, I'm able to click on these people from 3, sometimes 4 kilometers away, and the missiles are still burning when they hit them. Which is honestly insane. The longer burn time really helps these missiles get to places. You know, something like the AIM-9J or the R-60 isn't going to be able to give you these reliable kills. And you see, I've just gotten 3 kills back to back with these AIM-9Ds. Because they burn for so long that they still have range. Now, minus the missiles, of course, y'all have probably heard this thing called the last gunfighter before. It does actually have internal guns, unlike some of the other stuff of this BR that's forced to run a gun pod, and it gets 4 Colts. These guns, they're alright. Like a lot of other guns, they have gotten hit relatively hard by the real shatter change, so you're still going to get a lot of crits and hits with them, unfortunately. From my experience, though, they're still more reliable at doing damage than the M39s on the F5 or the M61 Vulcan when it comes to singular hits, although those two will still just shred just because of the amount of AP rounds they get. So I do like these guns. The bigger issue for me is the rudder on this plane. So I think I'm going to get into a dogfight here in a second where I can show this off, but the rudder is a little bit hard to manage. The plane itself does maneuver very well, but the rudder whacking out like this does make it very difficult to aim. And you're forced to compensate for it quite often, like I did right there. I don't know if y'all can see my plane just kind of wobbling back and forth around my mouse as I'm trying to get the rudder to adjust. You're going to have to get used to this. This does happen very often. You can see I miss a shot right there because of it. Same right here. And then the lackluster damage caused by real shadow changes really doesn't help with that when I'm sitting there trying to hit someone and actually reliably do damage. So you are going to get quite a few times just like that right there, where you'll put a few shells into someone, just get a hit or a spark or something, maybe some pieces just fly off. You might miss your shot entirely like I did right there against the A5 because of it. So you do got to keep that in mind. Now, the plane is not all sunshine and roses. There's a reason why it dropped the 10.0 in the first place. And so y'all know guys can use the statistics to balance vehicles, right? And so if they see a plane is dying a lot, they're going to think it's not doing very well. And this plane does have a really bad tendency. You can probably tell I'm being very ginger when it comes to these high G maneuvers. I'm not pulling as hard as it'll let me. I'm trying to restrict myself to 11 or 12 Gs. And there's another case of the guns being a little bit unreliable. And the reason that I'm restricting myself like that is that this plane is incredibly prone to ripping its wings. They are very fragile. Well, I don't know if I should say the wings themselves are fragile, or just the plane is prone to randomly pulling high Gs. But either way, this thing rips his wings a lot. Now, the F8E has less of an issue with it than this plane does. Has a bit stronger wings, but you are going to have to be very careful, because if you are not, you're going to do what I'm doing right here, and you're going to rip your wings. Now, I'm going to roll this back real quick in slow motion, so if you're watching, you see it goes 10 Gs, 12 Gs, 14, and then it snaps. So you want to keep it below around 12 or 13 Gs if possible. If you go over that, it will break. I hit 15 Gs right here in a second, and they snap again. Now, you don't always die when this happens. You can see I have a little bit of control right here. So if this does happen to you, don't panic. Try and get your nose down and get some, some airspeed going over your wings. If you do that, the spoiler does give you enough authority so that you can correct and pull out of it. Although unfortunately, I do run out of airspeed right here. So it is what it is. Overall, this plane is in a really good spot now. I would highly recommend giving it a try if you haven't already, even though the wings are really delicate. Just the combination of the flight performance along with the 4 AIM-9Ds is just honestly incredible. So, hope y'all enjoy the video. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I'll see y'all next time. So, peace, y'all.